I think we're on the same page that there should be a clean constitutional amendment, and the enabling legislation should make certain provisions for some protection of the racetracks. So we might disagree with the Speaker on that, but of course it's up to the Speaker and the members of the House and the Senate to deal with these legislative issues. But we believe we have a $3 billion industry that employs over 40,000 people, and they should have some protection from casinos coming into their market area and competing with them. We should give the tracks some opportunity here to compete and give them some priority treatment with respect to their particular markets.
What kind of protections for the racetracks?
Well, we think that it's up to the members of the General Assembly to decide what protections they're entitled to. But we think that in a given market, a racetrack should have the opportunity to compete for that license and should be given some priority. And I'd rather not get into details about the different ways to do that. I'll let the General Assembly decide, but we're going to be pushing awfully hard to protect the racetracks as we move forward.
Is the Kentucky Wins Group, is this an initiative of Churchill Downs? Obviously Greg Hall of the Courier wrote about how Kentucky Wins, that website was already licensed by Churchill. So is this kind of Churchill's effort to get what it wants?
This is a grassroots effort that we've actually formed with other business people from around the state. The top leaders, we've recruited them, we've picked university presidents, we picked business leaders, top attorneys throughout the communities of these important cities for the state. And to finish up on Ed's question, his answer, we're not writing the legislation. We're giving fine points to suggest. We're not politicians. We're going to have them write the legislation with some suggestions for us that protects an industry that's been here for a long time, yet doesn't penalize the state in any way, shape, or form financially.
But Mr. Blue, as people who've been following this issue for years know, it's been the horse industry's inability to get on the same page with themselves that has doomed past efforts, really. So have the horse industry, have they gotten involved in this grassroots effort?
There's discussions going on that are now finally happening. They're trying to get on the same page. Obviously, there's different geographics. There's all kinds of factors in place. But for the first time ever, I think they are making much farther ground than they have in the past.
And I agree with Jonathan. This is a 501c4 organization called Kentucky Wins. It's a business community coming together, as we have so many times in our community and throughout the state. We put together a business coalition to pass merger, a business coalition to build a downtown arena, a business coalition to build the bridges, and now you see the bridges are under construction. So it's very important that this be a statewide organization. We have 6 co-chairs, and I'll have to say Robert Evans is a co-chair. He's the chairman and CEO of Churchill Downs. So rightly so, Churchill should be involved in the process, just like a lot of other business leaders. Jonathan and I are co-chairs, along with Joe Kraft and Kelly Knight and Terry McBrayer.
Bipartisan
from Lexington.
Pretty powerful bipartisan group there.
Well, I'll let you be the judge of that. We're doing our very best to come together statewide. We've got over 50 executive directors out in the state. We have a Facebook now that has 38,000 supporters through Facebook. So we're excited about the broad-based support.
Well, let me go back to Churchill Downs, because one of the big sticking points specifically with them has been would they have to compete against a freestanding casino in downtown Louisville versus a casino at Churchill Downs, or would they operate one downtown? How do you resolve that, Mr. Blue?
I'll speak to that. I mean, again, I'm not going to speak officially for them, but I'll tell you, we've talked to them together, and for the first time, which is unprecedented, they've agreed to come downtown if this is passed. That's a huge, huge momentum changer for not only downtown Louisville, but really the whole state, as Louisville being the economic engine. And to build something downtown, when you're talking about the revenues, the development surrounding something if it happens downtown versus on Central Avenue, it could be the biggest thing that happened since the Yum Center.
So just so I'm clear, Churchill would agree to build its casino in downtown Louisville, not at the racetrack?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what does that do politically for the ability to get this passed? I mean, does that remove the biggest barrier to previous bills?
I mean, for years there were rumors that we've heard, oh, it was going to be on Central Avenue. Oh, Churchill won't come downtown. Oh, it's, this place is already wired for a casino. None of that's true. Okay, again, they've been as open as can be about wanting to get this passed. This is one of the only ways we can actually raise revenue in this state without raising taxes. Taxes are the way people do things today. This is not about raising 1 cent of your taxes and benefiting the state. I sit on the University of Louisville board. I've been through 7 budget budget cuts in 7 years, which is now an institution that's actually privately funded more than publicly funded. Let's do some things in this state which bring revenue in without raising taxes.
And is this clearly the game plan that lawmakers have taken off tax reform for 2014? They're not going to take that up by all accounts. Is this clearing the way, or is there some kind of deal here to clear the way for gambling?
I don't know whether you would describe it as a deal, but I will say this, following up on what Jonathan said, we've got to have funding for K through 12 education. It's back to the 2007 levels. They're having to increase property taxes throughout the state because of the lack of funding. Higher education has only had a 1.25% increase in funding from the state over the past 10 years. We need funding for higher education. The pension reform that they enacted last time helped, but we've got to do a lot more for pension reform. We've got Medicaid funding issues. We've got a severance tax that's falling down because of the competition from natural gas and EPA's war on coal. So, so many needs.
And those needs have been outlined by numerous lawmakers who have sat where you are. However, why is gambling the answer to that? Because in other states, you know, there's mixed results about how well casinos have done.
Well, we have $500 million going across state lines to build those schools and roads in states like Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, West Virginia. It's time for us to focus on the growth in Kentucky and address these needs with expanded gaming. And we can generate about $400 million for those needs that I talked about. You'll still have $400,000 for those needs. You'll still have $125,000 for the racetracks and the purses, enhancement of purses and breeding rights and other issues related to a $3 billion industry. So it's critical that you have $525 million available. And we don't expect tax reform this session. I attended a meeting this morning where President Ramsey was talking about alternatives, and he talked about expanded gaming as an answer to a lot of our needs.
Does the fact, you mentioned the horse industry, does the fact that horse sales and the auctions have been doing so well, from the Blood Horse just last week, quote, this year's Keeneland November sale realized significant gains in all categories following the trend of growth seen in almost every major North American auction in 2013.
Why not grow both together? We can grow both together with the solution we're proposing. We're not trading a $3 billion industry for a $2 billion industry. We're talking about growth together.
But does that undermine the argument that the horse industry needs it? The fact that those are doing so well?
It does not, because you have maiden special weight races in Kentucky at 45 to 50,000, in New York at 95,000. So many of our horses are going out of the state to race. We've got to enhance our purses. We've got to enhance breeders' incentive and backside help for the employees. There are a lot of things that need to be done in the horse industry. Just one good sale doesn't solve our problems. We've got to look long term at the survival of a $3 billion industry that employs over 40,000 people in this state. Now keep in mind, Jonathan said, one doesn't prohibit the other. We need the $2 billion gaming industry here that will employ, again, 10,000 people and an annual payroll of $300 million. So we need both industries to fund these other needs that we have in the state, as well as the horse industry.
Approving this would require a leap of faith from Kentuckians, a vote for a constitutional amendment. What do you say to those who are skeptical that maybe Kentucky has missed the casino boat in this respect? We've got some numbers here about other states. New York, they just approved 7 new casinos this month. Ohio approved 4 casinos in 2012. Delaware approved table games at racetrack casinos in 2010. Pennsylvania also expanded to table games in 2010. Of course, they first had casinos in 2006. And Maryland approved casinos in 2010. Is it too late for Kentucky to get a share of that?
I think we need to do it now. This is our last chance. It's time to do it, time to come together. We will miss out if we don't do it now. The climate is exactly right. And I want to make one other point to what you just brought up, and that is Illinois, Ohio, for sure, and Indiana are absolutely rooting against us 100%, okay? And they don't want it to happen here. There was a massive announcement the week the Ohio thing opened up there, where another $35 million development just got built right next to the casinos just because the casino was there. The developer said, I'll never put something there if that wouldn't have happened. So those states definitely don't want it to happen here. I think 83.1% of the people now live within a 2-hour drive of casinos in Kentucky. That would jump to 83.6, a whopping 0.5% more. They're already here. They're just across state lines. Why not keep the money in our own state?
So you're saying it wouldn't negative? Are you saying it wouldn't negatively affect a wider population?
No, it's right now the distance is basically the same, except it's leaving our state. We can capture that revenue within the state for the same population.
But to those who argue that casinos do prey on the poor or do attract the poor, does it make it easier if they have less distance to go?
As Jonathan pointed out, everyone in Kentucky has a casino within a 2-hour drive now. They'll have a casino within a 2-hour drive after that.
Well,
It'll just be in
Kentucky. It may be a half an hour drive.
No, well, it may be.
For a lot of people.
But it may be closer. But the fact is that we need to keep the $550 million in Kentucky as opposed to supporting these other states.
Where do you get 10,000 new jobs and the taxes going along with that without raising taxes or giving economic incentives? And again, we know how hard GLI works. We know how hard the Kentucky Chamber works to relocate companies to the state and how difficult it is in this challenging time. Where do you get this that just appears on your doorstep without hurting your state?
True, and you brought that up, I think, in a lot of your speeches, including in Louisville, that was covered by Business First. And in fact, those numbers, those 10,000, I believe 953 jobs, payroll of $289 million.
That's correct.
That works out to $26,385 per job on average. Are those the type of jobs Kentucky needs?
That's unfair in terms of the way they calculate that. Now, someone at Jonathan's speech the other day brought that up. He fails to, he didn't understand that a lot of jobs in the gaming industry are part-time, okay? So the average salary will be substantially in excess of $30,000, and that's more consistent with what GLI's goal is, around $36,000, $37,000. So we expect the wages to be very competitive, and people will be very interested in those jobs. But the only reason that average comes down is because some of them are part-time, so that's an unfair way to do the calculation.
You said this could be the last chance. Do you mean 2014 could be the last chance?
I could give you the timeline here if I just quickly look. I just want to make sure I don't make a mistake. Ed, you may know this more, but
it won't be the last chance, but certainly we need it now because of these funding issues that we have with these other needs in the state of Kentucky. If we pass it in 2014, legislation in the spring at the session, and then pass a constitutional amendment in November, then a casino could be up and operating by the end of 2016. So it's important to move forward now because of our needs and because of the timing with other states. Now you've got New York having more casinos, and they will enhance purses and start being more aggressive with respect to purses and breeders' incentives. And we don't need that. We need to be able to compete in Kentucky for those dollars.
And you said that in terms of the timeline?
well, again, I think Ed just hit it on the nose. There legislation in 14, hopefully public constitutional amendment a year from then,
right.
And then license and bidding by 2015.
Right, but you're not saying politically this is the last best chance?
Not politically. I'm saying climate. With respect to the climate and everybody else passing around us, it's closing in now. So it's time to capture that revenue within our state.
And I think the momentum is there. You mentioned something earlier. We met with the Keep Board the other day. We're talking with them about any issue they have, and we expect their support as we move forward. We expect Senator Syme to introduce this legislation in the Senate, certainly, and then Morgan McGarvey has been very helpful to us. A number of people have been very helpful, and everyone seems to think now is the time to move forward with gaming in Kentucky.
What about the governor? What role is he going to be playing? Because he's said a lot less about expanded gambling recently than he has in previous years.
Well, Governor Beshear has been very supportive from day one. He is very supportive now. He wants everyone to come together with the Business Coalition and with the horse industry, and he will help lead this effort.
I noticed he was not an honorary co-chair, though. Is that something you all are working on, or is he just not uncomfortable with the approach?
Well, we thought it was presumptuous to ask the governor to be an honorary co-chair. He's going to be leading the effort along with leadership in the House and Senate, and so we're looking forward to working with Governor Beshear, and we think he's going to be successful this time with his legislative approach.
Will Kentucky Wins get involved in campaigns, raising money for candidates who say that they're with you?
No, this is a 501c4 nonprofit organization. We're going to educate the public. We're going to get information out to them. We're going to do polling. We're going to follow through with respect to our efforts, but we'll leave the government relations to other people.